Good evening and welcome to this council meeting on the first day of November. The clerk will note that all council are present. I don't think we have anybody from the tribe here to do their invocation. So we'll move on. Please stand and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Does the council have any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, we have a couple of they're called presentations, but really they're proclamations. The first one is a proclamation for Women of Distinction. Whereas Seroptimus International is a volunteer movement with a network of 72,000 club members in 121 countries, and whereas the name Seroptimus is a coined name meaning best for women, whereas the members of Seroptimus International of Coeur d'Alene are devoted to improving the lives of women and girls by providing them with access to education and training that they need to achieve economic empowerment, and whereas the service provided by Seroptimus International of Coeur d'Alene will continue to have a positive impact on our community and citizens. Now, therefore, I, Jim Hammond, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, do hereby proclaim November 4th, 2022 as Seroptimus International of Coeur d'Alene Day. And I believe we have Teresa Young here to accept that. Thank you. You bet. Did you want to say a couple words?
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. I just want to say thank you. The women of Seroptimus and Coeur d'Alene are very excited for this Friday is our Women of Distinction Award. Miss Miller, Mrs. Miller, Kiki Miller, is one of our winners in past. She can attest to how great the program is. It's one of our biggest fundraisers of the year. Seroptimus are really trying to help women and girls better themselves and better their education. So we still have lots of tickets available. Anyone interested? Seroptimus of Coeur d'Alene, sicoeurdalene.org. Buy your tickets. We appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. The second proclamation is for Apprenticeship Month. Whereas National Apprenticeship Month is celebrating its 8th anniversary of raising awareness of the vital role registered apprenticeships play in providing opportunities to the people of Coeur d'Alene, and whereas allowing apprentices to earn while they prepare themselves and create a pathway to well-paying careers and the ability to advance in those careers, and whereas the advancement and well-being of the state of Idaho depends upon its ability to expand opportunities in its workforce that are inclusive of people who are historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequity in their chosen fields. And whereas the City of Coeur d'Alene recognizes that registered apprenticeships deliver a critical talent pipeline that can help address our state's pressing issues such as modernizing our cybersecurity response, addressing public health, and strengthening our state's infrastructure. Now, therefore, I, Jim Hammond, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, do hereby proclaim the month of November 2022 as National Apprenticeship Month. And we have Christina Feliciano here. Christina, great.
But she didn't bring an apprentice.
She did.
Oh, yeah, she has one. She's making one.
Mayor and Council, thank you for this recognition on behalf of the Idaho Workforce Development Center and Idaho Business for Education and the Idaho Apprenticeship Coalition. There's a small army of us making this happen for the state of Idaho. So we really want to thank you for this acknowledgement. Thank you all.
And next, we have the annual Leaf Fest presentation by Todd. Welcome, Todd.
My favorite part. Yeah. Okay. Oops. Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for inviting me to come and talk about Leaf Fest. It is one of our more exciting times of the year. I will say, I can't believe we're to this time of the year already. It's been a busy summer. We are getting ready to go. Our leaf pickup this year for the city will begin on November the 14th. I've notified we have some message boards out already. They've been out for about 2 weeks. We will start in the Fort Grounds neighborhood and then work to south of Sherman. We would plan to roll out of the shop by about 7 a.m. on the 14th, so you'll see us bright and early. This is our team. They are all excited. It pretty much uses up everybody at the Streets and Engineering campus. I would like to make note that we also welcome the help, and the other departments are always willing to chip in. Water is supplying one of their dump trucks and an operator, and the Parks Department is providing 2 employees as well to help us on our ground crew. So it's a group effort. Couple things to note, keep leaves and needles on the property until November 1st. So as of today, people can start putting their needles or leaves out in the street. We ask that those needles are at least 1 foot off the curb to allow water to drain when we have rain. The biggest thing, and you'll see more slides in a minute, is to get the vehicles off the street. We try and advertise daily where we're going to be. We have trucks that go through the neighborhood an hour, starting half hour before, trying to honk their horns, get people to move their cars. So that's something that really helps. If the machines can do all the work, we can get through there very quick. If the guys have to do handwork, it does take us a little longer. We ask that people be alert and keep a safe distance from the equipment. Kids really get excited when they see the big front-end loaders, dump trucks, and they like to stand at the corner right there where we're working, so we just ask that parents help keep the kids back. Please don't let the kids play in the pile of leaves either, because it's hard for us to see when animals or kids are in the leaves.
Just kids, right?
Well, some adults, but,
Okay, all right.
we try and watch for them. And then, I already brought up the foot off the curb. Things that we ask, that the leaves or needles aren't in garbage bags, that we can't dispose of the bag. We grind the leaves, so we don't want bags. And then no branches, grass clippings, or other yard debris. And just a reminder, we only have time to make one pass, so once you see us pass, please don't put stuff out on the street. It's a problem every year. We already are fielding calls that, because the leaves are still in the trees, are we gonna push it back? Are we gonna do it again? We're not able to do it again. This date and time is specific because, as most of you know, we already have snow in the forecast for this week. The same machines that are moving the leaves are also the ones that plow the snow. So we really only get one shot at this. Our hours of operation will be 6 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. By the time the sweepers shut down for the day, the loaders will be off the road by 3. I have a quick video. Most of you have seen it before, but we hope to update some of it this year, but it really kind of describes everything that we do during leaf pickup. So this is a good picture. You saw it in the video, but reason we want the leaves off the curb, there's not a lot of leaves in this image, but you can see when the leaves are right at the curb, when the road grader goes by, it rolls back into the yard. And so then that's when people like to push them back out in the street. Again, we make one pass, so it becomes a problem with snow removal and other things. So it's always something that we try and remind people. We do our best to get it all the first time. This is a picture here where just want to make sure you can see kids like to stand at the radius there. They love to watch the loaders. They'll stand on the curb. Just please, we ask to help and keep the kids safe, or adults. Here's another problem that we are starting to have a lot of problem with in Coeur d'Alene. People don't move their cars, so you can see we have to go leaf blowers and blow around the cars. You can see in the background a car that's left there with leaves piled up right behind it. We only allow the loaders to go so close to the cars, so it just becomes very problematic.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You said you start at 6 a.m., and I am very familiar with those downtown streets and the on-street only parking. Do we have a lot of the neighbors awake at 6 and able to move their cars that early? And how should we share that with the community?
So, couple things. First of all, we have to be careful how early we're in a neighborhood for just that reason. A lot of times we will move into the parks, parking lots and stuff, and pick up what parks is piled up to eat up that first hour. The other thing is with our new message boards that we have from our office, we can change the message. So we're hoping to, as we roll forward and we kind of get a flow, we will update those message boards from the office, and then we will move them around through the day so that we can try and give the neighborhood some warning. After about 7 o'clock, the truck in the middle of the screen has a sign on it, and they actually drive through the neighborhoods and honk. We will even go to the door if we have to and try and work with them and get the leaves off the street. On Front Street, we've had great success the last couple of years. We actually put out from 8th Street through 10th, we put up no parking signs from 7 to 9 a.m. and then we can get through there very quickly. It's worked very well for us, so we're trying to do more and more of that, but we don't have enough signs to do every neighborhood. So we're getting a lot of new tools to help, but yeah.
Great, thank you.
So this year, we're hoping to run the second week 4 sweepers. We just purchased a new one from our drainage utility. We got it the second week of October. It is the sweeper on the left. It's identical to the one on the right. We really like that one. We were able to buy that as a used sweeper. It was their demo model. They sold it as a used unit with 100 hours on it, and we saved $62,000. So we were excited to get that. We beat 3 other cities out that weren't very happy with us. We were the first on the list. So the second week, we are hoping to run 4 sweepers. In the past, we've ran 3. As we move north, we really get spread out, the people picking up the leaves versus the people sweeping the street. So we're hoping a 4th sweeper will kind of help close that gap. So you can see the sweepers dump in the middle of the street, so it appears we're closing the street. We're not. There is ways for cars to get around. We watch for them, but they try and dump in the next block ahead of the team as they're coming. We don't want them to run all the way back to the shop. It takes too much time. So last year, we moved the operation to our Streets and Engineering campus. We have some room in the back. We are having a hard time finding a location to dump the leaves. So it worked very well, so we'll be doing that again this year. It allows great access. There's plenty of room to store. Last year, our team, to this location, we hauled 858 loads of leaves into that location. Cannon Hill has been great. They always haul the leaves for us out to the airport in their live bottom trucks. So now we're out to the airport. It's really encouraging. We have a couple options. We partner with the airport, and they allow us to till the leaves in out there. They like what we're doing. They're always happy for us to come back. The Forest Service has some interest in them as well, to dump them at the nursery. We're working with them. They like to get a few loads a year, so it's a couple options there. Their facility is not quite as easy. It's all dirt, so the big trucks, if it's a wet season, will get stuck. So we have to time that appropriately. But for the most part, all the leaves go out to the airport. We disc them in, and it's creating some good soil out there. What was just rocky, typical prairie dirt, you can see is turning into more of a black topsoil type product. And that's another angle of that. I do have one more slide, but at this time, if there's any questions about leaf pickup, I will. It's a separate topic, so I would answer any questions.
I don't see any.
Okay. So we're excited this year. We've partnered with the library, the Children's Library. We are always looking at ways to get new names for the storms. In the past, we've gone out to the schools and let the kids do a contest there. This year, my assistant director and the librarian, Miss Howard, for the Children's Library, came up with this. And so they have a display if you're ever down there, and lots of books to do with winter. We are going to let the contest run from November 1st through the 23rd. We will give out prizes. We're asking for them to come up with a theme and list 10 storms. We will pick winners, and then would like to bring them to the first council meeting of December when I do my snow presentation and give out the prizes to the kids. So we're excited to do this, to get the kids involved. They always they've always been really excited to take part, so today was the first day, so I'm hoping in a month we'll have a bunch of new names. So anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Should be noted that this is something that very few cities do in terms of picking up those leaves, and certainly with all the deciduous trees in this town, it's a great service. Any announcements from the council? Christie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just real quick, wanted to congratulate our Fire Chief, Tom Greif. Great front page story today, very inspirational. We just have really great city employees, and on behalf of the whole council, I just wanted to make sure they all understand that. Proud of them.
Yeah, that was a great lead story. Yes.
I have 2 things. One is historic preservation update. The marketing committee for that group is working on an award program where they're going to be issuing plaques to nominated locations around the city for historic preservation efforts. They're also talking about 3 new projects, a historic building materials resource guide, and working with a downtown historic walking tour organization that is kind of a cool program if they can pull this together, where part of it's digital and you can see some of these historic places kind of come to life on your phone. So they're working on a couple of those things, and they're best right now working on some programs to evaluate and expand the historic overlay area. The other thing is the library. They're updating the children's library with foundation support. They have getting a shelving unit for their DVD collection, new plastic chairs, very exciting stuff there. And the foundation is looking at focusing its annual campaign on early literacy. They've also put in a water bottle filling station on the bottom floor. And they inherited a 4-door pickup truck, which they are going to be able to use for their outreach team instead of trying to use personal vehicles. And the final stats for fiscal year 21-22 are they had 193,179 visitors and 17,860 participants in the 592 events that they staged for that year. So that's a lot of folks served from our library. So anyway, congratulations to them.
Anything else? Yes, Woody?
I've got one. Lake City Center, I represent you guys on the board because I'm the oldest here, mayor.
Yeah?
So I'm kind of giving you a little heads up. This is, the feds have done some economical cutbacks. And so the federal money trickles all the way down through the state, and then it trickles down to all our senior centers all throughout Idaho. They've done a cutback on the Meals on Wheels program, and we're cutting back 2 days a week, 2 meals a week. We do 7 meals a week.
Ouch.
And all of a sudden, the economics they're telling us you got to stop doing 2 days. Well, we're having a hard time doing that on our level, and we haven't talked to Sandpoint or Post Falls or any of the other ones, but so we're kind of, I hate doing, we need a little more support from the folks, to kind of, we need to keep it going. That's kind of how we see the mission is, we need to keep these people fed. That's just, it's maybe their only meal they get. So I'm kind of throwing it out there if anybody has some good ideas on it other than just throw money at it. It seems like that's what we do, though, So it's okay. And the envelopes are coming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so I just sent you some money, so
Yes.
you've already spent it, I guess.
Well, we're gonna. If we haven't, we thank you for that.
How much do you need for the,
Well, they're down,
back
I
up?
think we're down, we get paid $4.50 a meal. And so by 2 meals, we're down about 3,000 meals. 3,000 meals. I think we were doing the calculation. It could be about 15,000 for the year.
Wow.
So we're working bingo, helps contribute, all the other things that the senior center does helps keep up that. So it's not like just looking for one big deal. I think it's just if everybody gives it some thought or they have people that are on it, little fixes here and there. And with the holidays coming, it's really hard to ask and you don't get a bow on it or anything, just, $10 here, $20 there. It keeps things going, We're looking at our food costs. We're looking at all the incidentals to try and keep it going, keep people feeding. And then maybe it's just a moment in time, but it's kind of coming, so we're trying to plan for it. So anybody or again, it's not a one big check thing, I think. It's just people being aware and maybe being able to help out where they can. I
Seems
want to
like-
bring good news, though.
Seems like I recall back when we were kind of divvying up the ARPA money, and I tried to give some more to senior center, and it got
No, you
turned
did.
back.
And
We did
it's still
some,
there,
but
yeah. We just did the,
yeah.
what do we call that? That
CDGB.
CBDG money, so
That's
you
the
guys
one.
have held on to that. That helps a lot, but it's like,
Yeah,
that was a
yeah.
huge bonus. You doubled the money,
Yeah,
you know, so we'll hit up
yeah.
the county and, you know, that kind of things. But I just thought everybody should kind of know about it. Maybe the newspaper will come in and get a story. And again, it's hard to ask for me. It's not what I'm good at.
Do you, Mr. Mayor, do you have any need for like volunteers perhaps, as opposed to just sending money? Do you have people who could show up
Oh,
or
we
maybe
always-
drop off some food or something?
Yeah, we always have room for volunteers. The Meals on Wheels drivers, they drive on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think they're going to cut out Monday for right now and try that. We're still trying to drop the meals, have the meals for those folks, and trying to find out who really needs it and who can do without, that type of thing. Whereas, you know, families might show up on the weekend and take care of them. It's real weird to go there because normally it's just take care of them, feed them. So I don't know all the logistics. It's just happened in the last couple of weeks, so we're trying to figure out. And I just thought, you know, I'm just going to let everybody know. It's a
What
good
do you-
system.
It's a 501(c), so anybody watching council could write a check to the Coeur d'Alene Senior Center.
Lake
Right,
City
the-
Center.
I'm sorry, Lake City, and that's tax deductible.
It is not.
It is
And
not.
that's what, actually, I was going to talk to the senators there. They do kid stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, not some of the new guys going in. I thought, you know, I guess senior stuff doesn't get the write-off that anything for kids. That's what I understand. So
You're
That
still a
by itself
charity.
wouldn't make a
still a
difference.
charity up to a point.
You're a
right?
charity, but you don't get the education credit on the
And the-
Idaho state tax return, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
I
Okay.
It
think
should
we-
still be a 501c3, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So it should be deductible.
I'm
it's
learning
deductible.
stuff I really.
It's just
didn't
not,
know.
there's a special category of kids'
Thank-
benefits, like a library. You can donate that off your state income tax as well, but
Tax credit
Yeah.
for
All right.
state, yeah.
Well, you guys know all
Acre
this
house.
stuff, you know?
Thank you,
I'm a
Woody.
rich white guy, I know all this.
Certainly want to take care of our seniors. That's important.
Yeah, aren't we getting close, huh?
We need
One of
it.
these days, we'll be those
I
seniors, you
know.
know.
I was looking forward to it till I got on this board.
You know, it's better than not getting there.
That's true. That's true.
Okay. Seeing no more announcements, we have the consent agenda before you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent calendar as presented, including Resolution 22051.
Second.
We have motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
McEvers?
Yes.
Gookin?
Yes.
English?
Yes,
Wood?
Yes.
Okay, now we move to the section of our agenda called public comment. We have one individual signed up tonight, Justin. Justin O'Connell.
Good evening, Council. I hope you're doing very well tonight. I'm here tonight in a sales capacity for central planning. I've been watching hours and hours of city council going back to as far as we can, and I know just the thing you need. I have a limited time offer on the central planning crystal ball. It just so happens we're offering the central planning crystal ball on a limited time offer, $10,000 for the next 60 seconds. That's just the cost of 1 year, the first year of AutoCast, the audio app we bought for the guided tour of the town's art, $10,000 plus $5,000 every year. The central planning crystal ball doesn't just accompany you on your walk through town and describe the inspiration behind all the objects. It predicts future events. Inspired by John Maynard Keynes, central planning crystal ball was designed by two of our top minds, Paul Krugman and Jim Kramer, with input from Dr. Alexandria Stein. He's a epidemiologist. It's very important that you have epidemiologists on your crystal ball algorithm team. Just ask Central Planning Crystal Ball, and you can know how much taxes you'll have the following year. Want to know the best place to put, say, a Trader Joe's or IKEA? Just ask Central Planning Crystal Ball. Those are on Mrs. Central Planning's wish list, by the way. Can we get them in time for Christmas? Central Planning Crystal Ball says yes if we offer large corporations financial incentives, Iron Man. Central Planning Crystal Ball serves many purposes. Have a fellow council member who keeps cautioning from spending because he was predicting a housing market correction, which is definitely not happening right now, and also inflation and economic crisis. Central Planning Crystal Ball will conveniently contradict all of this. Central Planning Crystal Ball. Should council members be afraid of inflation? No, inflation is good for you. Central planning crystal ball. Should we assume an ever-increasing tax base? Yes, just raise taxes. Central planning crystal ball. Should we worry about diseases being spread by the unkept porta potties? No. Plus, they remind California transplants of home. It's a true story, actually. I walked into one and I was like, "What is this? Is it the Tenderloin? Is it Skid Row?" No, it was downtown TJ. With central planning crystal ball, you'll know when and how to use eminent domain. Okay. Critics of the central planning crystal ball might evoke praxeology. In praxeology, A causes B, other things remaining the same, so you can easily predict. But in the real world, things don't remain constant, so you can't predict that A will lead to B. We've been selling the central planning ball now for decades. Don't read the reviews. It predicted depression after World War II and got it wrong. It did not see dollar devaluation after 1971. It missed the savings and loan crisis, dot-com crash, housing market crash, Great Recession, pandemic, missed it all. But we've been honing this thing, and I think we've really got it working good right now, and it can be yours now for just $20,000, but only if you act now. That's not even the cost of Ironman, for which I believe we pay between $36,000 and $70,000. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask Mr. O'Connell a question?
I'm sorry?
May I ask him a question?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell, I just am curious, do you have a YouTube channel or something where we can follow your posts, or do you post your monologues somewhere?
I do.
What's the name of that?
Gold, silver, Bitcoin.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Thank you. Can we get the medical passports for, we'll talk about that later.
Okey dokey. All right, we have before us a resolution, approval of a contract for rehabilitation of the Prairie Well. Welcome, Terry.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing me to come before you this evening. I have a couple items for you. As you mentioned, the first of which is the award of the bid and a contract for specialty pump services to rehabilitate the Prairie Well pump. We do one of these every year, so it's nothing really different. It's just moving through our process. We identify which ones have the highest production hours. The Prairie Well runs about 8 to 9 months of the year, is one of our mainstay pumps, and it has a great deal of hours on it. The last time it was done was in 2007, I believe. When we had it all completely out, we've rebuilt the motor a couple times on that. As you can see, it also sits next to the Prairie standpipe, and we do have a standby generator at that site. We have updated the landscaping to get away from the old rock that kind of looked horrible. In this system, you can see a tank sitting there. We utilize our what we call blow-off water. When the pump starts and shuts down, it releases water into a trough to relieve water hammer, and so we've developed a way to recover that water to use for irrigation. So we're recycling water that otherwise would have been wasted to help irrigate the property there and keep that like almost like a park-like setting. So we're very proud of it. So the well was drilled back in 1999. It's about 400 feet deep, 24-inch diameter well, so it's one of our larger wells. Produces about 3,200 gallons per minute. This is a picture of what a typical pump looks like. We've showed you these slides before, so it's nothing new to the council. We had 4 plan holders, it looked like, in the bid packet, but we only received 1 bid from Specialty Pump Services. That seems to be the process for the last several years. RC Worst used to do it, but they lost their pump crew, so they really don't bid them anymore. These types of wells are larger than H2O and United Crown like to do because it does take specialized equipment and a lot of manpower. So Specialty Pump Services pretty much does majority of the pumps in our area, clear down to Pullman, Spokane, north of Spokane. So they're a very good company to work with. They've been reputable, they're very knowledgeable, and we enjoy working with them. Here's a picture of the spiders, shafts, and casings. We did replace several of the casings on this pump the last time. We're anticipating we may have to replace some of the shafting. The spider should be rebuilt. We're looking to rebuild the motor and replace the pump itself. Usually it's more cost-effective to do that than to rebuild it, although they did come in with a lower bid for rebuilding this pump, so we'll see what it looks like. A lot of times the impellers are damaged far enough that they can't be repaired, and it's more cost-effective just to bring in a new unit. Here you see a picture of the spiders. These are the bearings that align the shaft. There is approximately 280 feet of shaft that has to run very precisely within 3 to 5 thousandths tolerance. So it has to be balanced very well, and this thing runs at 1,875 RPMs, almost 22 hours a day. So, it takes a lot of wear and tear. It's very precise machining, so it takes a lot of work to do it, and very knowledgeable people to do it, so. This is an example. In fact, that's the owner of the company, well, the previous owner of the company. He's actually turned it over to his son. He's looking to retire. Hasn't quite made it there yet. His son got an injury, so he's now back doing it again. But this is the process. They pull and clear out. Here you can see the blue unit is the pump itself. There's a suction cone on the bottom of it that kind of helps pull the water into the pump. And then the discharge head on the far side there, where the motor sits and drives the pump itself. So the bid came in at $105,184 for the base bid, and that's what we do for our typical package. We do have some alternatives for some replacement parts that sometimes we utilize, sometimes we don't. So we have budgeted $182,600 for this pump package, and so we're asking that council approve the bid itself and award a contract to Specialty Pump Services Incorporated for a sum of $105,184 and not to exceed the budget amount of $182,600.
Thank you, Terry. Seeing no questions.
Oh, I have a question.
Oh, Woody?
A couple. How much, those big tank on Atlas, how much water does that hold off the top?
2 million gallons,
2 million.
yes.
So do you,
About 1 million of it is usable. In those standpipes, because of pressure requirements, we can only use about half of that tank. So the bottom half is what's called dead storage. Even though it does circulate, it's not stagnant water, but we have to have that to maintain the elevation to be able to provide the pressure through the system.
and how big is the pipe that leaves that's
18-inch.
18 going out to the folks?
Yep.
And it steps down as it goes?
Yep. Yeah, it goes out and then branches off into the system down to a minimum of 6-inch.
When the pump, you're showing that cone thing, does that go all the way down to the bottom of the well?
Doesn't go all the way down to the bottom well. It goes to about, probably about 60 feet into the water level itself. The water level, static level, is about 270 feet there in that well. And so we'll go about 60 feet below that because we only have, even though we're pumping 3,200 gallons a minute, our aquifer is so prolific that we're only drawing it down just a few feet when that pump runs. It's very amazing because other places I've been, we'll draw water down hundreds of feet running. So.
I love that stuff.
Yep.
Thanks for keeping the water flowing. I think of you every time I take a shower or flush. Just
That's what we endeavor to do, is
I
make
know.
sure that nobody really thinks
don't want
about
to
it.
think
It's
about
there.
it. That's right.
So,
Thanks, Terry.
Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Terry, that water, that standpipe you show, the huge pipe, that's still the tallest pipe in the area?
yes,
Thank you.
yes. That we know of.
Okay.
And we've been told, I don't know if this is true anymore, but at the time, years ago when we painted it, we were told that that's the tallest structure of that style in the world.
Really?
Sweet, thank you.
Should get an
That
award.
just
or
makes the water taste so much better. We'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for approval of Resolution 22052, approving the contract with Specialty Pump Services for the rehabilitation of Prairie Well.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
And Terry, you also have a request for authorization to apply for and approval to accept, if awarded, a state revolving loan fund planning grant.
Correct. We are at the point where we need to update our water comprehensive plan. We do those about every 10 years. The last one was done in 2012. And you have to update those when they need to make major modifications to your system. We have pretty much exhausted what was in that original plan to the point of one more well and one more tank. And then, so we need to update that plan. We need to do some modeling of the system. We're seeing increased densities within the existing city limits that are changing the original projections. So we need to do that. We need to identify any more deficiencies in the system, whether there's some pipelines that need to be changed out, any additional wells or tanks that may be needed with the additional densities. So we have looked at utilizing JUB engineers to do this. They did the last one. There is a code in the state that allows as an update to utilize that same engineering firm. So we've proposed to do that. We'll be bringing forward a contract with them later on after we know for sure that we are getting this grant, as this grant will fund half of that, what that study will be, up to $103,850. We originally applied for $100,000, which was, we were told with the limit. I was notified last week that they'd have additional funding available, so they'd be willing to fund up to 50% of the cost for the plan, as noted by JUB at $207,000. So.
Questions? Yes.
So Terry, is this plan what you use when you're doing a review of a project that's either going to be built or annexed into the city to determine whether this plan informs you to determine whether there's adequate water for it? So
Correct. Yeah, we model all of those areas that we anticipate growth at. We did the same thing for the upcoming Armstrong project. We modeled that at R17, figuring that would be nearly the maximum density out there. So we try to include all of that in this plan as we do it. It'll project any requirements for an additional well, which we've looked at on that portion of the site. It'll look at everything within the ACI, the area of city impact.
Great, thank you.
Woody?
Just a couple questions, Carrie. How often do we do these?
We try to do them every 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah.
And I was
But
just.
DEQ says that if you're making any major modifications to the system that's not in your plan, you have to update it at that point. So.
Also, as you bring in more property, you get their water rights, right? Do
Correct.
water rights relate to this?
This evaluates our water rights to determine whether we need to seek additional rights. At this point, we're doing good. We've accumulated enough water rights to meet our peak day demand. With the new well, we will need additional water rights when we do go for that on Nez Perce is what we're looking at. So we're looking at getting a portion of the water rights for Armstrong because they want to retain some for irrigation, which will take a load off of our system. So we're negotiating that, and then we'll have to seek a little bit more. But so this does evaluate that, tells us what we need. A well, if it tells you a well, we're figuring about 9 CFS or 4,000 gallons per minute per each well. So it tells us what we need to and when we need to do it, when we should be looking at it, so that we can budget that in our long-term plan.
Do we get feedback on how the aquifer is doing? We hear from people saying that, oh, we're using up all the water. Does that change for
We monitor
you?
that routinely through not only the city, through Panhandle Health, through the other, our fellow public water systems, DEQ, IDWR. So we're monitoring that routinely. We're working on ways to encourage conservation and efficiencies within that system. So no, we're not using it up yet, but there will come a day, as California's experienced, where we're going to exceed what we can put out.
Thank you.
How about a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for approve the motion 22053, giving authorization to apply for and approval to accept, if awarded, state revolving fund planning grant in the amount of not to exceed 103,850.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Since we don't have a crystal ball, I would urge that you support this.
I just want to clarify that that was $103,850.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Put a dollar sign on those numbers, would you?
Will the clerk take the roll, please?
McEvers?
Yes.
Dugan?
Yeah.
English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you for keeping us filled with water,
Yeah.
good water. And we have one more item before the council, and that is to reject a bid for a operations building.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'd like to start off by saying I think I'm bringing good news here. We have a project that we started back in 2019, our treatment operations building. Currently, we're operating out of a building was originally designed for a treatment plant, 1/4 our size today. And so we actually hired an architect to do a programming report. That report said that we should be operating out of a 6,400 square foot building. Currently, we're operating out of a 2,400 square foot building. Initial estimates were based on, at that time, renovation of the existing building, which included a second story and then also a basement that was going to be provided. That initial estimate was $2.3 million. Fast forward through many different revisions, we found a way to whittle that down, and we were going to reuse one of our buildings already on the treatment plant site. But it would require tenant improvements, and back in 2020, we had a conceptual design done. The original estimate was 1.2 million, so we whittled it down from 2.3 down to 1.2 million. But that project couldn't begin construction until that building became vacant, which will occur here next month. So last September, we went out for bid. On October 11th, we opened up the bids. My staff report shows the bid breakdown. And as you can see, the lowest bid from Northcon was 1.704 million. Now, all these bids exceeded our initial estimate, which was 1.2. And we've been budgeting 1.2 for the past couple of years. When I gave the architect a funny look, he blamed it on market volatility and the fact that there's a bunch of labor shortages. So when in doubt, I called a contractor that did not bid on the project, and he substantiated that claim. And so since all the bids are within plus or minus 5% of each other, I think those bids are fairly tight. So we scratched our head a little bit, tried to figure out what our next option is. We obviously we have a need for the building. We have a need for the additional space. And so we've clearly outgrown the existing building, which is also starting to fall apart. So we presented something a few years back to council on this option of occupying a different building, and then we'd free up real estate within the treatment plant for another treatment plant upgrade where this existing treatment operations building is. So since the collections building won't be vacated till sometime next month, November, staff would like to find ways to reduce the scope of our project. And so we also looked at what other options we could do here, and we decided, hey, maybe based on our existing project seemed to take so long, we extended the contract date. And so we feel that that too could influence bids. So we sat down with the architect and we started scratching things off the plans and specs. And we'd still like to maintain that spring 2023 construction date. So incorporating all those items together, we would like to reject all the bids that came in, begin negotiating contract amendment with the architect to reduce the contractor scope and go back out to bid. We feel that we can knock off somewhere in between $200,000 to $300,000 off of this project. So with that, it was the wastewater department's recommendation that we present this to council. Council's the governing body that can authorize us through, via state statute, to reject all bids. And then proceed to move forward with the project by doing a reduction in the scope of work.
Questions? Woody?
So let me understand this. When the old collections building, where they're moving out to the compost area, and it was going to cost 1.7 to modify that building? Or the 1.7 was for, well, the 2.4 was for a brand-new building, basement, second story?
Was for the renovation of that building, but also was strictly just the building itself.
The old collections
The old-
building?
The old treatment operations building.
Oh, okay. The original building. And then when you went to collections building, the one that's being vacated, you got it down to 1.2?
At that time. That was in 2020.
Wow.
Then the reason why there was such a high price on the original building is it's only a single-story building. And so they were proposing to wipe it out, dig out room for a basement, go up 2 stories above that.
So the collection building now, the plan is just the single story?
No, we would propose to have a mezzanine for office spaces on there. One of the items that we're looking to reduce is not put the walls up for the office spaces, perhaps using some cubicle or have it open space for the time being. We'll have provisions in place for data ports, power, et cetera, et cetera. So when we do come in with walls in the future, because we don't know how many more, as the city grows, we're going to hire more people. We're going to need office spaces for those individuals. So we just don't know where we're going to place those walls in the future yet.
You guys are almost as cheap as me. I like that you keep looking at it. Squeeze those guys.
We try our best to whittle it down for you. That's our job.
I appreciate it.
Always looking out for the best interest of the city.
Thank you.
Christie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike, what date did you send this out for the RFP? How old are these bids? I missed that
The
part.
bids?
Yeah.
The bids went out in like the first or second week in September. And then we opened up the bids in a month after that. And we've been budgeting the $1.2 million for the past 2 years based on the original estimate that was conceptual.
Okay. I guess I'm just kind of a little bit baffled by that because the prices have just gone up. And maybe you were locked into the 1.2 just because of us, I don't know. But now you're in a position where you have to take away from the original concept. And I just don't know, is there an opportunity where they can, Troy, where they can borrow against their enterprise fund to fund this?
Well, again, we're looking at the capital plan, and the costs are up. I think maybe I know this is a great decision, because we've looked at it every which way. They have the cash, the enterprise fund has the cash. It's just an expenditure of 1.7 for a project that we anticipate to be 1.2, sort of takes away the value that we were creating by moving the collections people over to the compost facility and keeping, it's a great move to get out of the building where the folks at the plant are at. It's a huge amount of activity occurring in that area, so this is the wisest decision. So the cash is available. The challenge is it's way over what is anticipated in any of the planning we've done.
How will that change next year or the year after? How will that change? Well, they'll still need walls in the future.
We don't know exactly when we'll need the walls, and that can be done on separate contracts. And we anticipate that lumber costs and things are coming down as the commodities are catching back up. And depending on what happens, this $200,000 to $300,000 savings is pretty substantial based on this work. Maybe we'll catch the right window for these commercial construction companies to look at this. I would reflect, and Mike brought it up eloquently, we had a pretty tight timeline on this. And if you're bidding things right now and you don't have workers, you're going to build in quite a bit of a dollar amount to get this done in a timeline so that you don't run into paying extra. So I think that's a key piece to this rejection, is the fact that our timeline, we're going to give more latitude for the contractor.
I see. Thank you.
So I would urge the council to support this proposal, to give staff time to go work on it and come back to us with a new proposal. Dan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike, why is this spring 2023? Why is that a deadline for you? Solid? You're not willing to wait a little bit?
The longest lead time on this, Councilman Gookin, is the storefront windows that are going to fill in the spots that those big garage doors were at. Those are going to be open. This building is going to be subjected to extreme temperatures and what have you. And so we're temporarily going to put up some plastic up there. Don't know how long that plastic will last. So we're trying to get the ball rolling again on this. Again, the timeline, it all hinges on when collection could be relocated out of there, and they just pulled down the garage doors last week. So we're trying to keep the ball moving so that building doesn't go unused, I guess, and it's protected from the elements and weather.
Okay. It just seems to me, I think we're entering a deflationary cycle, so I'm thinking waiting, prices will come down, like Mr. Tymeson said. And so it may be, if things go to hell, like the central planning crystal ball told me, it may be an opportunity to wait, but that sounds like you're not willing to do that.
The wastewater department, well, I've got a magic 8-ball that I use.
Okay, well,
So, but we would like to proceed moving forward on this. Again, the building that treatment operations is operating out of is starting to fall apart. We have a shower that's falling in. My understanding is we got some old issues that we have to contend with. So I'd like to get the operators out of that building. It's an unsafe environment, unhealthy, and they just plain outgrew it.
I see. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to reject all bids for the remodel of the wastewater treatment operations building and authorize staff to begin negotiations to amend the existing architectural contract and reduce the general contractor's construction scope and rebid the project.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed with nay. Motion carries.
Thank you. Good night.
Would you like to make another motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that there being no other business this meeting be adjourned.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Opposed with nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.